That mask reveal trick everyone connects to the Tom Cruise movies, the latex peel, the dramatic reveal, the gasp, that was invented on the 1966 television show, and it was perfected there too. It traces back to one actor named Martin Landau, who did it every week for 3 seasons and then disappeared from the franchise completely. Tonight we're getting into exactly why he left, why the show's original team leader was replaced over a scheduling conflict nobody anticipated, and why that smoking tape recorder was never actually destroying anything. And we'll get to the theme music, because there's something specific going on in that melody that explains why it's never quite sat right in your body, and why that was entirely by design.
Well, if everything goes like clockwork.
Number 10. The man behind every mask. Long before Tom Cruise was peeling latex off his face on an IMAX screen, Martin Landau was doing it every week on CBS, and almost nobody connects those two things anymore. Landau played Rollin Hand, the IMF's master of disguise. The character could impersonate virtually any target using latex masks and voice mimicry, and the execution had this genuinely unsettling precision to it. That whole mask reveal moment, the thing that feels like such a signature of the film franchise, Cruise and company inherited it directly from what Landau spent 3 seasons building on television. When Landau left after a contract dispute at the end of season 3, the show quietly lost one of its sharpest storytelling tools. It kept going and it remained capable, but something specific was gone.
That they are sending their most brilliant intelligence officer.
Number 9. A show that ended without saying goodbye. 7 seasons, and then just nothing. CBS canceled Mission Impossible in 1973 without ceremony. What's interesting is that it wasn't a sudden ratings collapse that did it. The show had drifted, gradually and almost imperceptibly, away from what had made it genuinely distinctive. The original formula was psychology over firepower, deception, manipulation, the perfectly constructed con. Over time, that got traded in for more conventional action storytelling, and the audience that had valued the cerebral approach tuned out slowly. Just a gradual erosion of what the show had actually been. So there was no crafted send-off. No final mission that acknowledged the weight of 7 years. For a series whose entire identity was built around the perfectly executed exit, its own exit was remarkably graceless. The most Mission Impossible irony the whole franchise ever produced.
As always, you have carte blanche as to method and personnel.
Number 8. The ritual everyone forgot. Everybody remembers the tape. Almost nobody remembers what came right after it. Before each mission, Phelps, or Briggs back in season 1, would open a folder and flip through photographs, selecting a specific team built around whatever that week's job required. The roster genuinely changed episode to episode. A safecracker here, a linguist there, and audiences would watch that selection scene, actively trying to puzzle out why each specialist was being chosen. The tape got all the cultural glory, deservedly, but the dossier scene is where the audience's brain first switched on. That flipping through photographs ritual is what established that this mission was purpose-built. Number 7. Villains who looked like your congressman. Every other spy show of the 1960s handed you a villain with a white cat, a secret island, and some kind of superweapon. Mission Impossible handed you a corrupt official sitting behind a desk in a government building. And that was somehow scarier. The show's antagonists were almost always bureaucrats, crime bosses, or rogue intelligence operatives, drawn from thinly veiled Cold War anxieties rather than invented comic book menace. Fictional enemy nations were rare. The threats felt institutional, plausible, embedded inside recognizable power structures. That grounded quality is why the series generated real tension instead of camp. When the IMF dismantled one of those organizations, it felt like something true had been corrected, rather than something fantastical defeated. The audience believed in the threat as a thing that could actually exist, which meant the resolution carried actual weight.
Colin, you're getting every actor's dream. Chance to play a triple role.
Number 6. The pilot that wrote the rulebook in a single hour. Creator Bruce Geller essentially embedded a complete franchise operating manual inside a television pilot. The pilot episode introduced nearly the entire Mission Impossible formula in a single installment. The dossier selection, the self-destructing message, the team assembly, the latex disguises, the gadgets, and the non-negotiable rule that no rescue would be attempted if anyone was captured. Geller built the structural DNA of a 7-season franchise in roughly 50 minutes, which means every mission briefing, every mask pull, every smoke-trailing tape recorder across the following 6 seasons was directly descended from that one foundational hour of television.
I'm afraid we'll have to kill you both.
Number 5. The tape was never destroying anything. One of the most recognizable moments in television history was built on almost nothing. The iconic smoking tape recorder, 5 seconds, then a cloud of haze, was achieved through a small smoke-generating device concealed in or near the prop. triggered on cue. The show couldn't afford to destroy actual reel-to-reel recording equipment every single week, so the self-destruction was entirely theatrical. The machine was fine every time, only the tension wasn't. What's genuinely impressive is how completely the illusion held. Across millions of households, across decades of viewers, people were absolutely certain something was being obliterated. Nobody questioned it. The cheap solution landed harder than the expensive one would have, which is, fittingly, very much the Mission Impossible approach to problem solving.
Mr. Phelps, your mission, Jim, should you decide to accept it.
Number 4. The woman who won 3 Emmys as a cover story. Cinnamon Carter's cover story listed her as a model. What she actually was is considerably harder to define in a single word. Barbara Bain's character was the IMF's primary infiltration operative, a woman whose presence and social fluency functioned as the team's most reliable entry point into high society targets that neither gadgetry nor muscle could reach. Bain won 3 consecutive Emmy Awards for the role, 1967, 1968, and 1969, a run of back-to-back drama acting wins that stood as a record for years. Most people, when they think about this show, remember the disguises and the gadgets. The fact that the actress playing the team's most elegant weapon quietly built one of the most remarkable Emmy streaks in television history tends to get buried under everything else.
Good luck. See you later.
Number 3. The leader nobody expected to define the whole show. When Peter Graves stepped in as Jim Phelps at the start of Season 2, the producers were genuinely uncertain whether the audience would follow a new face into the lead role. What they got was a performance built almost entirely on controlled stillness. Graves brought a quiet, almost cool authority to Phelps. The man read less like an action hero and more like someone who had already seen all possible outcomes and chosen the one that worked. He almost never raised his voice. Every team member responded immediately, regardless. The contrast between that unshakable exterior and the absolute, calibrated chaos his plans produced around enemy targets became the series' central dramatic engine. 6 seasons later, Jim Phelps wasn't just a recognizable face of Mission Impossible. He'd become the template that fictional team leaders in television spent the following decades trying to replicate. All of it came from a replacement hire that nobody had been confident about. The contingency became the standard.
If a man begins to doubt his own mind, you can make him believe almost anything, Cinnamon.
Number 2. The star who couldn't work Fridays. The face most people associate with Mission Impossible almost never existed because the original face created a production problem nobody knew how to solve. Dan Briggs, played by Stephen Hill, led the IMF team through the entirety of Season 1. Hill was an observant Jew who would not work on the Sabbath, from sundown Friday through Saturday night, and the show's shooting schedule made that religious commitment consistently incompatible with the demands of weekly network television production. By Season 2, the production replaced him with Peter Graves as Jim Phelps. Every briefing scene with Phelps at the head of the table, every cool decision under pressure, every quiet authority, every piece of cultural identity the franchise accumulated across 6 seasons, none of it exists without that Season 1 scheduling conflict. The entire Phelps era, the one that defined the show in the memory of everyone who watched it, was the contingency, the backup plan that nobody had written yet when Season 1 began filming.
What we are buying here is death.
Number 1. The theme music that was designed to feel wrong. You've heard that theme your whole life, and you've never once been able to count along with it comfortably. That slightly unresolved, can't quite land on it feeling has always been there. That wasn't accidental. Lalo Schifrin's Mission Impossible theme is written in 5/4 time, 5 beats to the measure, instead of the 4 that govern nearly all pop and television music of that era. Your brain expects 4/4. 5 beats keeps you perpetually 1 count away from solid ground. Schifrin brought that time signature from his background in jazz and classical composition, and the choice was deliberate. That off-kilter structure works on the listener below the level of conscious awareness. It subliminally signals that something is always slightly wrong, always just about to shift, which is exactly the psychological condition a spy thriller needs its audience in from the very first note. The music wasn't setting a mood so much as engineering a specific state of alertness. Every time you heard that theme and felt that particular edge of anticipation, Schifrin put it there on purpose. The instability was the point.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps.
Bonus fact: the creator who held the line as long as he could. Intelligence wins, brute force doesn't. At a moment when action television defaulted to shoot-first storytelling, Geller insisted on the psychology over firepower approach that became the show's entire structural identity. Network pressure to push the action quotient higher was a recurring tension throughout the series' run, and for several seasons, Geller held that position. By the later years, ratings erosion and shifting audience tastes forced compromises he'd spent years resisting. It was the one mission the IMF couldn't run a convincing enough con to escape. Mission Impossible was built on the idea that the most powerful tool in any operation is the one your opponent never sees. And for 7 seasons, it quietly applied that same principle to television itself. A show that worked through intelligence and misdirection, right up until the constraints it had always outmaneuvered finally caught up. 2 facts from tonight that are worth sitting with a little longer. The Sabbath scheduling conflict in Season 1 that erased the entire Phelps era from the original plan, and the knowledge that Lalo Schifrin engineered that specific feeling of unease directly into the time signature of the theme. You've been living inside that second one your whole life without knowing what it was.